The Price of Obsession Nobody Talks About by Zach Braff. This one I actually have not watched. The reason it's that way is because I do not have Rumble Premium because I'm poor as well as a skinflint. But also just maybe on principle, I don't know if I want to pay them any. I don't know. But if you watch it through part of the way, then you don't have to deal with advertisement. It seems like. In any case, let's get into this. Price of Obsession Nobody Talks About by Zach Braff. I think that's how they said Braff. On Chris Williamson's channel, right?
As somebody that's basically a Philistine in a scene, maybe.
You're right. Let's try this.
2 or 3 theater shows in his entire life.
Yeah.
Of a career of being.
I like Philistine. I want to use that one more. You're a Philistine. It's like barbarian, but ethnically specific. Okay, so maybe someone correct me on this. I'm pretty sure a barbarian would have originated with the Italians and be used in reference to anyone who wasn't Italian. I could be wrong about that. I have to look. That's another thing. I have to look up the etymology of barbarian. That would be a cool one. I thought like the Goths and the Visigoths were people who were referred to as barbarians. The Celtics and Nordic people would also been like barbarians, pagans, or whatever the crap.
Being a spectator, and obviously a person who kind of understands the art form as well. What are the ones that stand out to you as that was really, really special?
Well, I'll tell you, Les Miserables, which is probably a very common answer.
Never actually watched that one. Well, I looked up stuff about it, like in the plot and whatnot, but I never watched it itself. I liked the song Stars, or Beyond the Stars? I'm not for sure what it's called. It's a good song. Stars in your multitudes.
Yeah. Answer for people. I was like 13 years old, and I had never really been moved to tears by art before. I had never seen something as a young person so beautiful in my life. I was so moved by the music. I was so moved by the stagecraft. The story was thrilling. So that was a really seminal moment in my young life. You know, my dad had been bringing me to see all the plays. Yeah, I lived in North Jersey, so my dad would bring me in. You know, it took 45 minutes, and he loved theater. He got me into it, so he would bring me to see all these plays. A lot of them were sillies. A lot would go over my head, but I loved it. And then Les Miserables was the first one where I was at the right age to feel emotion, to have tears streaming down my face, and that's when I was like, "What is this? This art form is something that is so powerful." And so then I went.
Never actually watched a play or an opera. Well, here's the question. Well, what is the appeal of operas? Do the people who read them actually understand what's going on? Or are they just like, is it just the music? Is that what's going on? So I think there would be like, they'll probably give you pamphlets or something so you can kind of understand. But I think a lot of the operas, at least, are done in a different, like, Latin or some crap.
Went on to see like so many productions that both musicals and dramas and comedies where there was just so much joy for me in seeing it happen live and having it be different every single time. And the shared experience with people around.
That is something that is probably a little bit underrated in the art and the difference between like a movie and a play. That in a play, you are seeing different individuals all try to take on the role of blank character and blank role, and it'll be altered, at least to some extent, every single time you watch it. That's an intriguing notion. It might lend itself to rewatchability, actually. I thought of that.
Who are also swiping a tear or laughing. That's just something really magical. When it's great, it's just so fun.
What about when it's bad?
When it's bad, it's really bad, and I never leave an intermission just because I'm an actor myself, and I feel too bad to do that. Yeah, it can be horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But I try. You know, I do filter what I'm not going to see things totally blind.
You're not going in blind.
I don't go in totally blind. No, I'd be lying if I said I was just going to any random show.
And get his free reading list.
I definitely go to what I've heard my friends say. You got to check this out.
I've heard that you wanted to be a doctor at one point.
When I was in high school, there was a program.
It is kind of strange just the way, like, the course of a person's career goes, like what they become involved in. Is it because they want to get involved in it? Is it because necessity drives them to get involved in it? I know some people would probably have families that would force them to maybe take up a career they don't necessarily want because, you know, their family is their passion to some extent. But it's nice to some extent if you can do the thing. And I feel like to some extent you also owe it to yourself and to society to do a thing that you're really passionate about. Like that's the thing you're going to be best at, right? That's the thing you can probably do the best thing for society for. But unfortunately, there's not always money in the thing you're passionate about. At least you could maybe try taking it up as a hobby or something like that. But
in my high school, with the town had a volunteer rescue squad. I guess that's just the way it works in some towns. In New Jersey, at least, I can only speak to that. Is that the town?
I think there is like a volunteer rescue type thing. We would have first responders around our place. A lot of the guys in our church are first responders. When I say a lot of, a non-insignificant portion of the guys in our church, I think, are first responders for the like. But I'm not sure exactly how all that would work.
One has a volunteer rescue squad of people who are EMTs who donate their time, and there's an ambulance service. On serious calls, the paramedics come in a separate ambulance from the hospital.
You know, such completely, well, technically, not tangentially, only liminally related. Do you know that veterans have to have, I think, way more training than actual doctors? Because doctors are just dealing with basically like one animal, whereas veterans are dealing with like a myriad of different animals with different immune systems and different crap going on inside their bodies. So it feels like they would, like, it makes sense. I don't know if this is still the case. You know, it makes intuitive sense that this would be the case, that veterans or veterinarians, dang it, that veterinarians would require far more training than doctors, actually. They have to know, actually, probably a lot more.
And they had a program for kids that were 17 and up to volunteer and get trained and go on calls. And I went on many calls with the ambulance service. And, you know, you're mostly doing the grunt work. You're carrying gear. You're moving the...
Wait. Is this guy from Scrubs or something? I thought I'm thinking that's where he's from or something like that.
Stretchers, you're taking blood pressures. But it was thrilling. And I think there was a moment there where I thought, wow, what an exciting career path to be. And
also, I did not know he was an actor. Normally speaking, I mentioned this before, I don't like... There are very few subjects which I would love to hear an actor speak on. And there's very few actors I would love to hear speak. Stephen Fry is one of them. Rowan Atkins is another. Probably, who's the dude from The British Office? What is his name? The guy who is angry and British at the Oscars. That guy.
Not that I could necessarily stand the education.
Okay.
Become a real doctor, ironically. But
it's not because he's a terrible person. It's not because I'm pretending to be ignorant. I literally, like, it's just escaping my mind right now.
But maybe a paramedic or maybe something in the field. And then I just never really excelled at the classes that, you know, biology and chemistry and all the things that you need to be really great at. I just didn't have the interest or the skill.
The fun bits were fun.
It is interesting because you think, like, you're not necessarily skillful at the thing you would want to be skillful at, and you might be really good at something you hate. It's kind of weird the way that works.
But the technical bits got in the way.
Adrenaline was fun, and coming to the rescue was fun, and I loved all that. I loved coming to the rescue. I loved
Ricky Gervais. Booyah!
The adrenaline of it, and feeling like you helped people, and you felt really good. Also, there was a volunteer aspect of it that I'm sorry that was an important part of it too. I felt great that I was doing all of this and volunteering.
that's something to it as well. Like I feel like more than just making money at what you're doing, I feel like the notion that what you're doing is actually something that's useful to society it's something that can't be bought, really. Like like I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on video before, but if you could just spend the rest of your life pulling the lever on a slot machine and make your money that way, I think a lot of people would say, no, I'm going to do that and I'll use the money to do something good. But I would prefer to have a job that I can make money at that is also a good in and of itself, rather than doing something useless that gets you money so that you can use that money to do something good. I prefer to have something that is actually of utility to society innately. Like it's innately good, like a good thing to do. And you can make money at it, hopefully. Or at least make a living of some sort.
Service.
In service, yes.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? You get the 3 emergency services, right? You've got ambulance, fire, police. There's an issue going on. The ambulance turns up. Everybody's grateful. There's an issue going on. The fire service turns up.
Police turn up.
Everybody's grateful and turned on. The police turn up. People get a little bit suspicious. Unless you're the very person that needs it, everyone immediately gets on watch. And I always think...
Well, that's... I think some of it has to do with that the litigiousness of the law is not exactly the same thing as morality. And sometimes you can be what you consider to be a very good person, and you still get into trouble. So there's a degree of the law that has to do with just arbitrary rule keeping. It's not exactly, yeah, I don't know. It feels like because of that, people tend to be a little bit skittish around police, perhaps in general.
I just feel bad for police officers. They're doing a thing. They're still doing a service, and in many ways, they're in the line of fire. They're dealing with much more kinetic situations. I guess firefighters too, and also, I'm sure ambulance. But you think, fuck, like police officers are really, they're being shouted at, and there's all of this potential stuff, and they're looking over the shoulders. And
I think most people, if they think about it for half a second, they do appreciate what cops do. So, respect for anyone who's willing to put their life on the line for the sake of society writ large. Respect to those guys. But I do think there is a degree of arbitrariness to the enforcement of the law that is, it's not always as appreciated as it should be. Like, individually, it is not appreciated. As an aggregate, it's probably important that we do enforce the speed limits, that we do enforce these codes. It's important that there is a guardrail. The exact placement of the guardrail is perhaps arbitrary, but it's important that there is a guardrail. Again, there's that dynamic where on an individual level, you're afraid that, I don't know. I understand it in any case.
And no, that must be hard. It must be hard to be a police officer when you look at your fellow, of the 3 branches that you could have gone down on emergency services, like people sort of clap and applaud, and there's a lot more heroism around that. And the public perception, I think, of police officers has had a rough run over the last decade or so.
Absolutely. And there's a lot more nuance to that profession than fire and ambulance.
Stop fire, get cat out of tree, or keep person alive, as opposed to do one of like 50,000 million things here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was a home invasion on my street this week, and it's scary. I was certainly happy that they were there.
Home invasion, like a robbery while people are in there?
They broke in the house and held this woman and
Oh, so what's the one where it just involves breaking and entering? Because I feel like there was a different word when it comes to an invasion where they're actually there versus an invasion where they're not there. Larceny? Is that what it is? Burglary, larceny. Is burglary? Is that one where they're actually away as well? I'm not sure. Like, would it just be considered like robbery if the person's actually there? I'm not sure exactly how that works. So I'm assuming like larceny and burglary would involve not necessarily threatening someone, but you rob a bank.
Stole her jewelry and
I just need to get this straightened out for a project I'm working on. Completely unrelated. No.
we're in no rush to get out of there. And it was scary.
That's gnarly.
Yeah, it was gnarly.
Yeah, it's an interesting one thinking about what jobs you would do if you weren't doing what you did. I was thinking about this the other day. Have you ever, obviously, you maybe didn't.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the drink. New tonic. So I'm assuming this is supposed to be some sort of health thing going on, right? For your mind.
Have the chops to do the.
I didn't have the interest in school enough to get into medical school or the SC.
Just for the record, New Tonic is not sponsoring me. I was curious. It's got a weird eye on it too, in bright colors. And since I'm a 5-year-old, it's distracting.
T-scores or the grades, or I mean, you really have to love school.
That is something I would have heard. Like you have to like. I'm thinking it's something like 8 years of your life that you're dedicating to all that crap. Like depending on what you want to be, it's really it's a huge investment of time.
I love design. I think I'm really into architecture and design, and I think that kind of overlaps with what I do as a director because you're hiring and collaborating with extremely talented craftspeople who are the best at what they do. And you're saying, I have this rough idea. Will you help me execute it? And then you put together this team of insanely talented, in the case of film, cinematographers and production designers and costume designers and actors. And everyone comes together and they help you execute. And to me,
I like the music of the spheres. I have no idea if that's correct or not.
If I wasn't allowed to work in entertainment.
What is that? Is that an opera? Or is it no? It's an orchestra. I think it's more of an orchestra thing. I think it's a song. Could be wrong. I'm not for sure about that. You have to look that up.
For some reason, that's something that really lights me up because I do love architecture and design.
Who's someone on a film set or on a production that makes a massive difference that most people from outside of the industry don't even consider?
The cinematographer, I mean, I think is
Is that the person who controls like lighting and tone?
Is the number one.
I could see that being the case because like if you're going for a certain look or a certain vibe in a movie, that type of thing with regards to the soundtrack, with regards to the tone of the film itself or the lighting, I feel like that could play a huge role.
One collaborative person the director has, that is his or her right hand person.
What's their role for people that don't understand?
For people that don't know, the way that everything is photographed, the lens choice, the way, just for example, this interview is being was lit by a talented cinematographer who chose where to put these 3 lights and what lenses he was going to put on the cameras and how in post-production it was going to be colored. So much of that makes a difference. I would imagine a lot of laymen think that that's all the director. The director is sort of the conductor of the orchestra. If the crew is the orchestra, the director's the conductor of the orchestra. And if the first violinist is, let's say, the most important person in the orchestra, I would say that's the cinematographer. And the director is there going, I can't play the violin like that. I can't play the bassoon like that. You guys are the best at what you do. My job is to go a little more of this, a little less of that. And and yeah, the other position that I'm sure most people not in the business, I'm sure most people in the business don't know anything about is the first.
Just for the record, that feels like it was kind of a labored metaphor, but I don't know if I could come up with a better one, so it'll do.
It's AD, who is.
Sorry. All right.
I'm sure most people in the business don't know anything about is the first AD, who is the first assistant director who's running the whole set. In theater parlance, that's kind of like the stage manager, but the director is in charge of overseeing the creative aspects of what we're making, but someone is marshaling this oftentimes enormous crew and all the background and all the actors all around. And the head of that department is the first assistant director. And that's a very stressful job. They stereotypically die young because it's so stressful.
No way.
Yeah.
Holy crap. That's unfortunate.
trading their lifespan for good productions.
They
and
are.
not going into OT.
They always laugh about it. They're always like,
We're gonna die young.
they always laugh and go, we stereotypically die young. But it's a very stressful job. It's hard to.
Well, to be fair, there might be a certain type of person that would be into it as well. But man, that's unfortunate.
It's hard to do.
They're the people that make sure it doesn't go into overtime.
Yeah, they're managing how much time you have. So when you make a schedule we shoot Scrubs, for example, in 5
Yeah, booyah! I was right. I'm awesome.
days, and so they're.
Hang on, how many episodes in 5 days?
We shoot 1 episode in 5 days,
right?
And so they
always,
even back in the day, 5 days.
Wow. Okay.
It's
so. I'm not for sure exactly when it changed, but I know back in the day they were. It feels like they were in a lot tighter time crunch back in the day when it came to producing episodes of TV, and somehow it shifted. I don't know if it was with COVID or whatever the crap, but they were like 24 episodes each year, and now they just they are lackadaisical to a maybe slothful extent about it. I don't know. Maybe it's just harder to produce it these days too. I don't know.
It's kind of crazy. The new streaming comedies have. The ones that I direct have sort of moved to 6.5 days, which is a lot, which you'd think only is a day and a half more, but it's a huge difference in terms of executing it in a relatively sane way.
Anyways, I found that interesting anyways, but it might have been more niche. You can check out this if you like Price of Obsession Nobody Talks About by Zach Braff from Scrubs, which I guessed. Me. Sorry.